It is Wednesday, August 26th, 2026, and this is The High Road, Logistics and Leadership. I'm Buck Reynolds, and I've got enough diesel in my veins to keep this rig running all night.
This is Elena Rossi.
I'm Jules Sterling.
And I'm Dan Miller. We have a great show for you today.
Yesterday, we covered Panama Canal transit restrictions, Laredo trade surge and border logistics, and UPS strategic restructuring.
Look, it was a mess, right? We also talked about that trade surge in Laredo and why UPS is cutting domestic fat to grow in the Philippines. It's all about that margin defense we keep preaching.
Well, it's a busy one today, everyone. The U.S. Canada trade talks haven't just stalled, they've essentially driven off a cliff, and we're looking at a full-blown tariff war that's hitting the asphalt right now.
It's a normal day in terms of volume, but the gravity of these trade disruptions is, actually quite severe. We're moving from strategic friction to a total rupture of the integrated supply chain.
Well, here's the deal. That collapse in D.C. last Friday wasn't just a breakdown in communication. According to FreightWaves, the U.S. invoked Section 338, that's some Smoot-Hawley-era ghost, to slap 50% duties on Canadian goods.
It's the nuclear option. I told you guys on Sunday this was coming. 50% on steel, aluminum, and get this, hockey sticks and dairy? President Trump isn't playing ball.
It's heartbreaking for my retail accounts. Canada just hit back yesterday. Prime Minister Carney announced retaliatory tariffs on 700 products starting September 8th. We're talking 15 to 50% on our electronics and agricultural gear.
My thing is, I spent 27 years hauling across that border. You can't just flip a switch and replace $20 billion in trade without making a mess of the deadhead miles.
Actually, Buck, the ripple effect is worse than the immediate cost. John Deere is already forecasting a $1 billion tariff hit. You see, when the equipment cost spikes like that, the replacement cycle for fleets it grinds to a halt.
Right. And if you're a carrier in the upper Midwest, your capital expense budget just blew up. You can't buy a Canadian-built Class 8 truck without a 50% surcharge starting in 2027?
How am I supposed to explain this to a shipper? They see the news and they just want to know if the rates are doubling. It's sort of a diplomatic nightmare on every single conference call.
It's not just about the money, Jules. The USMCA sourcing rules are being lit on fire. The U.S. is demanding 50% strictly U.S.-sourced content. That breaks the regional value content model entirely.
The thing is, we're treating our neighbors like they're a world away. Canada is our biggest customer, and we're acting like they're some stranger we met at a truck stop.
Look, Buck, it's about leverage. If we don't have veto power over their future trade deals, we're exposed. But the bottom line is, it's a game of chicken where the trucks are the ones getting smashed.
Speaking of getting smashed, have you guys seen what's happening at the southern border? It's not just tariffs, it's a total enforcement reset. Over 3,000 Mexican drivers have had their visas revoked this year already.
You're referring to the cabotage crackdown. The DOT and CBP have finally merged their databases. It's a digital trap. If a foreign driver picks up a load in El Paso and drops in Dallas, boom, visa revoked.
I've been warning about this for years. You can't have these guys doing domestic runs just because it's cheaper. But 20,000 drivers lost? That's a massive hole in the capacity bucket.
Exactly. Canacar is losing their minds. But look, if you are a domestic carrier, this is the supply and demand correction you prayed for, right? It is removing the rule breakers from the field.
But Dan, these aren't just rule breakers. They're the people keeping the cross-border freight moving. If they're all banned, who's hauling the produce? It's sort of a self-inflicted wound for the retail sector.
Well, there's another layer to this. The FMCSA is now enforcing English language proficiency as an out-of-service violation. It's not just a suggestion anymore. It's federal law as of this year.
Whoa, I remember when that was just a box you checked. Now you're telling me if a driver can't answer the inspector's questions, the truck is sidelined? That's gonna park a lot of rigs.
Right, and we saw that arrest in Las Cruces on the 10th. A Canadian driver caught hauling from Deming to Los Lunas. They're hitting the north border with the same cabotage stick, people. Nobody is safe.
Hey, before we move on to the chaos in the Middle East, a quick note from our sponsor. Strategic logistics requires world-class engineering.
And this show is powered by the stack developed by Eric Christensen at Neural Network Media. Support the architect behind the code.
Visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Neural Network Media for a free trial and access to our daily briefing PDF. It really helps us keep the lights on here in the ops room.
Yeah, support the folks who make this happen. All right, shifting gears. Let's talk about the Strait of Hormuz. Because here's the play. It's a ghost town out there.
Kepler reported only 2 commodity vessels entered on Monday. 2! Compare that to the 10-day average of 14. This is a 3-month low for the planet's most critical oil choke point.
Complacency is the precursor to catastrophe. 17 ships damaged in 6 months. 12 seafarers dead or missing. It's a combat zone, and the insurance companies are reacting accordingly.
The weirdest part is how it's hitting home. Major U.S. cities are rationing fluoride because the supply chain from Israel is broken. My yoga studio even had a notice about water quality yesterday.
Well, my thing is, why aren't we seeing $150 oil if nothing is moving? Are these ship-to-ship transfers in the Gulf of Oman actually working as a safety valve?
They are. Tanker trackers saw 25 million barrels moving between ships outside the strait. It's a workaround, but man, it's expensive. You're paying for the risk, the transfer, and the shadow tolls Tehran is charging.
Actually, you see, the U.S.-China tension is the real powder keg here. The U.S. is pressuring China to stop buying Iranian oil, and if that breaks, we're looking at a global economic retaliatory loop. Now it's time for Iron Lady's Verdict, our Wednesday segment, where we break down the most critical failures in regulatory compliance and driver safety.
Uh-oh, Elena's got the gavel out. Who's in the crosshairs today?
Northern Michigan University, or more accurately, their truck driving school. On August 5th, the Michigan Department of State summarily suspended their operations. This is a public university, Buck.
A university? Wait, what do they do? Forget to file the graduation paperwork?
Oh, if only it were that simple. This is a breakdown in the chain of custody. The state found they were letting students behind the wheel before verifying they had learner's permits.
Wait, they were training people who weren't even legal to learn yet? That's sort of a massive liability, right?
Exactly. But it gets worse. Instructors were having students sign blank instructional documents that staff would fill in later. They were literally manufacturing compliance records.
I mean, that's just a diploma mill. I spent weeks learning my pre-trip at an old schoolhouse. You can't fake the hours. It's a safety nightmare.
Bottom line, this is part of that joint federal-state crackdown, isn't it? 75 schools nationwide are under the microscope for CDL fraud.
Precisely. When you have missing financial records and a failure to use mandatory student agreements, it's not just a mistake. It's a systemic attempt to bypass the ELDT requirements.
It makes me wonder about the drivers already on the road. If they came out of NMU, are their licenses even valid now? The risk for carriers hiring those graduates must be huge.
That is the verdict. If you are a fleet manager, You must audit the origins of your driver's training now, not after an accident. Complacency is the precursor to catastrophe.
Well said. Glad I'm not the one explaining that to a judge.
Iron Lady's verdict. That's a wrap. Back to the board.
Look, while we're talking about safety and risk, we got to address the BMO divestiture. This is a tectonic shift in how we track the health of the industry.
BMO is the gold standard for trucking data. Every quarter, I'd wait for their impairment report to see if the market was actually turning. Now they're selling to Stonepeak?
For $10.6 billion. Stonepeak is a private infrastructure firm. That means we're about to go into a complete data blackout on trucking credit.
Actually, Jules, it's worse for risk modeling. BMO's transparency allowed us to see that gross impaired loans fell to $440 million this quarter. We knew the market was healing.
Right, but once it goes private, no more quarterly pulse, no more public accountability for how these loans are performing. Stonepeak is an asset-heavy beast. They're not interested in sharing notes.
My thing is, BMO is keeping a 20% stake, but they're offloading the risk. They're cleaning their books, which tells me they might see a bigger storm coming than they're letting on.
Or they just wanted to boost their capital ratio by 28 basis points. It's a math play, Buck. However, the small carriers face a risk. Credit might get much tighter once Stonepeak starts looking for infrastructure-level returns.
Switching gears to the factory floor, Honda is basically admitting the EV-only dream is dead. They're building an 8th plant in the U.S. specifically for hybrids.
1/3 of their U.S. sales were hybrids in June. The consumer is speaking, right? The all-electric Prologue is basically sitting on lots, down 40%.
I mean, I've been saying it. You can't haul a heavy load or a family of 5 through a Wyoming winter on just a battery yet. Hybrids are the middle ground.
Actually, you see, it's a trade defense strategy too. Honda is worried about the USMCA renegotiations. If they build it here, they avoid those 50% tariffs on Canadian imports.
Exactly. It's pragmatic resilience. Same thing with BJ's Wholesale. They're slashing 20% of their SKUs. No more unnecessary choice. They're leaning out the supply chain to survive the volatility.
All right, let's get into the main event. Gatik just pulled in another $200 million in a Series D. These autonomous box trucks are moving from science fiction to, actual profit centers.
$600 million in contracted revenue. Buck, this isn't a pilot program anymore. They've done 85,000 driverless orders with a 99% on-time rate. Qatar and Coke are writing the checks now.
It's all about the middle mile. They're doing regional routes for Walmart, Kroger, and Tyson Foods. It's the high-frequency, repeatable lanes that don't need a sleeper cab.
I still don't trust a Silicon driver to feel a wheel bearing getting hot. But thousands of trucks by 2027? That's a lot of box trucks without a heartbeat in the cab.
Actually, the safety record is what's driving the investment. When you look at the carrier liability landscape, like that $604 million verdict against C.H. Robinson, automation starts looking like a legal shield.
Look, it's about efficiency at scale. But here's the kicker. While Gatik is scaling, the USPS is hiking a 6% holiday surcharge starting October 4th.
On top of the 8% fuel surcharge from April, my retail clients are going to lose their minds. A 25-pound package going to Zone 5 will cost $10.50 extra?
The thing is, the Postal Service is trying to match FedEx and UPS pricing, but they don't have the same tech stack. Shippers are just going to run to the regionals.
Right. We're seeing a massive shift to independent regional carriers. If the USPS keeps pushing, they're going to price themselves out of the small business market entirely.
It's the compounding fee environment. Between the Descartes Tie acquisition, which just put more AI into the TMS, and these rate hikes, The humans are being squeezed out of the equation.
It's sort of a perfect storm. We have $200 million flowing into robots, while the post office is charging humans a premium for the peak season, right?
I mean, I remember when the holidays were just about getting the loads moved. Now it's a high-stakes chess game between the algorithm and the balance sheet.
Look, the bottom line is that the efficiency epoch is here. You either automate your middle mile or you get buried by the surcharges. There's no middle ground anymore.
Complacency is the precursor to catastrophe. If you aren't integrating AI orchestration into your fulfillment right now, you're already behind the curve of companies like BJ's and Honda.
Well, here's the deal. I'm going to go home and prune my roses. But tomorrow I'll be right back here watching these bots take over the highway. That's all for today's High Road. We've got robots in the middle mile and a trade war at the border. So keep your eyes on the road and your hands on the wheel.
Bye.
See ya.
Peace out.
Don't forget to double clutch into the future, folks. See you down the road.